On the surface, there was barely a ripple. No press conference, no two-page spread in the newspapers. Maybe a mention on the ticker, a couple of tweets. This wasn't a big splash into the NHL free agent pool. Most of the time, though, the waves of real change come from well below the surface. And that was the point. Get deeper and the waves of real change will come.
Yeah, I played Junior A for the Wexford Raiders, played there for 2 years, and the real fun part about that was I actually played with my brother Andrew for a year, so that was a great experience. And then I got a scholarship that year as well to University of New Hampshire. Was there for 3 years and then signed with Phoenix, and I went back for 3 summers to get my degree, political science major. I actually think I want to go back to school and get a master's or try and go to law school.
Daniel Winnick grew up in the heartland of Leafs Nation, Mississauga, Ontario. His hockey journey eventually took him east to New Hampshire for university, and then west for pro stops in San Antonio, Phoenix, Colorado, San Jose, and Anaheim, before finally returning home to Toronto. One of his first appearances in the community as a Maple Leaf was to his grade school, All Saints in Mississauga.
The old stomping ground.
It was his first visit back to the school since his grade 8 graduation.
This was actually my junior kindergarten class. Yep, right there. Hey, gotta take a picture of that. That's awesome. How's the gymnasium looking these days? Same? I had this class with Mr. Osborne. I had Mr. Brady for grade 8.
You haven't grown much.
I know, right?
You were never really a troublemaker guy. You
No.
never got in trouble. And you know the beauty, I love watching you play.
Thank you, Howie. When I was first in school, I mean, think of the times, we used to play Dungeons and Dragons on the computers. Whenever you come to the league, you visualize yourself staying with one team for a long time, but I know that's really not the case. It's really tough for third, fourth line guys to do that. But you know, I've been involved with some great organizations along the way, and I'm happy I'm here in Toronto now. For a lot of people to make the NHL, you have to readjust your game, because the main thing is everyone who gets drafted or signed was a scorer at one point, and the hardest thing in the NHL is to figure out what your role is. And if you're not scoring, you got to be doing something else. And you know, I don't score a ton of goals, so I tend to excel on the defensive side, and I put a lot of focus on the penalty kill. You know, I got drafted a lot later than I think I was expecting or hoping to go, and you know, I never took that as a huge slight. I always have played with a chip on my shoulder because of it, but when they drafted me, I kind of had that mentality that Phoenix is going to have to sign me, that they're not going to have a choice to, and then I've played that way since. I never see myself as a 9th round draft pick. Thank you for having me back in my school, and thanks for taking time to listen to our presentation, and have a good day. Thanks, guys.
You don't have to be a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs to be a good citizen. But for almost 100 years, a big part of being a Maple Leaf has been about being a good citizen. Perhaps the best example of this is the team's annual visit to Sick Kids Hospital around the holidays.
Good try. It's a tight game. I'm going for this one now.
It's great for us guys to come and help these kids in a tough time and in the holidays, and I think it really puts into perspective how fortunate we are as well.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks. And a happy holiday.
Happy holidays.
See you.
Oh, here it comes. Oh, okay.
Oh, Stanley Cup.
Oh.
Yeah, I think giving back to the community is a big part of being a professional athlete, and I think the Leafs do a great job of involving us in the community, and obviously a trip like this is huge, and the tradition has been so long that it's great to keep it going. Anytime we have a chance to give back to the community, it really puts a staple on us as being in the position we're in.
With the World Juniors taking over Air Canada Centre for the second half of December, the Leafs were forced to hit the road. Unfortunately, the road hit back. The 5-game road trip after Christmas produced only 2 points, a shootout win in Boston on New Year's Eve. It was becoming clear that, as the calendar was turning to 2015, the Leafs season was turning too. On the morning of Tuesday, January 6th, a hastily called press conference took shape at the MasterCard Centre in Etobicoke. By the time General Manager Dave Nonis took the podium, the news had already broken. There would be a coaching change.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming on short notice. I know we didn't give you a lot of opportunity to get here. And before we open up for questions, I want to thank Randy for all of his efforts, which were significant, and on behalf of the whole organization, wish him well going forward. He's a good man, a good coach, and he'll be back in this game quickly. I've had some good periods, good stretches, but I don't think I can stand here in front of you and say that we've been consistent. And this was the right time to make the change and try to get this team back playing like we have played for periods this season. As gruff as you might think he is, he's a very intelligent man. He understands the game. He understands our situation, and again, it's not that we have players that can't do it. We've seen it. It's not that they can't do it. It's that our consistency hasn't been there. It's been trending downward for the last little while.
One day after Randy Carlyle's dismissal, interim coach Peter Horacek was behind the bench for the Leafs. Different coach, same result. A 6-2 loss at home to the Washington Capitals. 2 days later, the Columbus Blue Jackets visited Toronto, giving the Leafs one more chance to break the slide at home before they head back on the road.
Taps it back to Kessel. Back door, Van Riemsdyk. Waits, feeds, Kessel scores! And Peter Horacek in his first win as the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs as they win it 5-2 over the Blue Jackets. And from here, Toronto plays 16 of its next 23 on the road.
Usually, a 5-2 win over the Blue Jackets in the middle of January is just another box score. But this time, it was a much-needed dose of positivity, as the Leafs departed 12 hours later for California.
The win was big, but the way we played was more important. We're looking to get to a workman-like mentality and, you know, really build some trust within the group. You know, anytime there's a coaching change, there's some uncertainty, you know, and for the coaching staff right now is to get in their head that we need to go to work, you know, and if we outwork or match teams' work ethic, I think we're got a good chance. So we make no excuses. You know, we prepare every day to be at our best, and we're not going to make any excuses, and I think the group understands that. The coaches, we're working diligently to create that environment for them and make sure that they're prepared for the games. But it's a tough league, you know. There's the moment you start to make excuses, you're not giving yourself a chance. So I think we're building that trust and that mentality for our group right now. We're the old cliche, we're taking it one day at a time, but we really want the group to focus on the way that we play. And we're going to look after the details of the game. And whether we're in LA or we're at home or we're playing back-to-backs, it's the same approach.
Whenever your coach gets fired or fired and anything like that, it's on the players, and we know we can be a better hockey club. And
this decision is because of our consistency, and for us now, we've got to move forward and find our game.
Yeah, it's never just on one person, it's a collective thing, and unfortunately he's obviously the fall guy right now, and now it's up to us as players to just go out there and try to straighten things out here.
Hockey may have taken a while to take root in California, but 3 cups in the last 7 years prove that it's alive and well. And whether it's Californians who have adopted the Leafs, expats living there, or fans on a road trip, Leafs Nation is alive and well in California too.
Well, we're just loyal fans, you know, that's it.
I think it's Canada's team. You know, like we're like the Chicago Cubs of hockey. We're gonna wait, one day it's gonna happen. Hopefully before I die. I'm 57 years old now.
There's nothing better than a Leafs fan. I mean, we're real passionate hockey fans. Probably the most loyal fans because it's been 44 years for me that I haven't seen a cup.
We were expected to be chirped and hooted at the whole time. And man, there's gonna be as many Leaf fans here as LA fans, so cool.
How can you explain it? It's like every game is like, it gets dramatized, you know, whether they get blown out or whether they win. You're always going to hear the drama, you know, whether it be like whether or not they're going to trade Kessel or whether or not Carlisle should get fired or what direction the team is going to go in. I think it's just the nature of the beast. As a Leafs fan, it's just what you expect.
To this point, almost midway through the game, really shutting down Toronto's attack.
Stay on it.
For the Kings to shoot it, and that with the empty netter, that's it. His 7th career shutout in only 29 career games. 7 shutouts in 29 career games. That is impressive.
The Kings have had their own struggles this season, but they are still the reigning champions. Despite a good effort, the Leafs didn't get any shot past the Kings' Martin Jones.
You know, it's disappointing that we can't capitalize. We didn't get our power play, didn't score a goal. Maybe we needed it to, but you know, you got to take some solace in the fact that their shots and chances were lower, and you know, we think that we're going to be able to score some goals. You just got to keep the process of your team keep getting and going in the right direction and going in the direction they're playing harder. That's the nature of the beast, right? You got to pick yourself back up and be ready to play the next day. So.
You got to start seeing some results, and that's something that they're going to have to work on. And you know, they've got such a good offensive team when it's going, but they didn't create enough offense for them to get their point or two out of here.
After the game against the Kings, the Leafs traveled down the highway to Anaheim.
trip continues. It is the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Anaheim Ducks. And great to have you with us. And Anderson gets the shutout. Perry gets the hat trick. Job done for Anaheim. 4-0 winners.
After 2 straight shutouts in Southern California, it was a late-night flight straight north to San Jose. Despite a strong effort in the Shark Tank, the Leafs were still looking for their first point of the road trip. A flight back across the Rockies, and one final stop in St. Louis, Missouri, before home.
St. Louis and its arts, the gateway to the west, but for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they hope this city provides a joyous exit to the east and home. It's been a tough road trip for them and a tough way to end it. 4 games in 6 nights against top Western teams, so we wonder what they've got left for the Blues, a team on a roll. It seems like it's been scoring more than any other team in the NHL in recent years. And Brian Elliott gets his 3rd shutout of the season, the 28th of his National Hockey League career, and the St. Louis Blues held off the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-0.
Bottom line is we went on a road trip and we're going home 0-4. I don't think there's much more to sugarcoat it. Bottom line is we went on a trip and we are coming home with no points. It's unacceptable.
I don't know. It's just we're cold as ice right now. It's getting a lot of chances. I mean, in the first period, I thought we played one of our better periods of the year. We were on our toes, skating.
We got our chances tonight. We, especially in the first, but we didn't bury and did it. So that's the bottom line.
We have to just get through this tough time. So we're going to have to rely on leadership to step up. We're going to have to buckle down. We're going to have to be mentally tougher to get through tougher situations like this. So, you know, when you go through losses and you've got injuries and people stepping up and people get frustrated, you've got to count on every single guy and your leadership group to step up, and that's what we're going to do. So we can't find reasons and make excuses. We understand that being on the road in these situations are tough, but we can't, you know, look anywhere else except we're going to have to get down together. Where leadership's going to have to step up. We're going to prepare and prop ourselves back up like we have before. And
you know, those things happen, and you know, you got to reset as a group and get back at it. I don't know, not good enough again.
It's been a very emotional year with a combination of a couple different events and you know, the ups and downs that we've had with our season. It's one of those things where you try and stay positive and be in the moment, and you know.
Rumors are part of being a professional hockey player, especially in Toronto, and especially when there is change in the horizon. By the start of February, Cody Franson was a popular foil for pundits, bloggers, and analysts forecasting trades across Leafs Nation. It didn't take long.
You start dealing with trade rumors and things like that, even when you start playing junior, you know, and you learn as you go that, you know, what affects you and what doesn't affect you, and people are going to say what they want. You know, there's always going to be trade rumors, speculation, and, you know, talks about my contract and things like that, but, you know, in my opinion, that's what I pay my agent for.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, you make so many good friends, you know, along the way, and you know, one phone call can totally change that. You don't know how much you're ever really going to get to see those guys again. So.
Less than 2 weeks after the Leafs visited Nashville, Franson and Mike Santorelli were dealt back to the team that, coincidentally, had drafted them both.
Making his Toronto Maple Leafs debut tonight, Olli Jokinen, and talk about being center stage.
Everybody's watching everybody right now, whether it's to acquire, whether it's to sell, whether it's to evaluate. All eyes are on these teams.
How long do you expect to stay here?
I don't know. Right now I'm a Maple Leaf, and I'll approach it day by day. It was a big surprise. This is a tough part of the business. As a player, you go in a new team, you try to fit in the room. You got a job to do. Once you put the jersey on, you gotta find a way to play for that logo, play for that city, and play for your teammates. And end of the day, you gotta play for yourself and your family too.
Acquired for his versatility, whenever he was asked to play in the lineup, Winnick excelled for the Leafs. His performance and expiring contract made him a coveted player as the trade deadline neared. On February 25th, Winnick was traded to Pittsburgh for Zach Sill and 2 draft picks.
Daniel Winnick joining us now. How will you look back on your experience as a Maple Leaf?
No, I mean, I enjoyed it for sure. Never forget the experience. Extremely happy to have played for my hometown Toronto Maple Leafs.
It is no secret that the weight of expectation on the Toronto Maple Leafs grows with disappointment. From the outside, there are fans and media. There are the expectations of the organization from within. And there is a personal, internal understanding of what is expected. To have perspective doesn't mean to let go of all these expectations. No, perspective is the kind of weight that offers balance, and without it, expectations mean nothing.
One thing you learn in this industry is you have to have a short-term memory, and you have to be able to switch channels and make sure that you prepare for your next opponent. It's hard because the emotions are so high at this level. When you have success, it's great. When you have failure, it's difficult. So what we do is our jobs. It's no different than a firefighter or a police officer. We go to work every day. It's just we have 19 or 20,000 people critiquing us every night.
Next time on The Leaf, the big picture starts to come back into focus.